trip to Manchester City. Then it's games against Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton and Wolves. How will Frank fare as he starts life in North London? To discuss their opening fixtures, delighted to say we're joined now by Chris Cowlin of the Spurs Chat podcast. Chris, great to have you with us. Appreciate getting this instant reaction from you. Thomas Frank, I'm sure, would have been looking eagerly at his phone, thinking, right, how am I going to start? What are going to be my first few games? What do you think he'll make of him?
Matt, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I think if any Premier League manager or fan could have chosen the opening game, it would have certainly been against a promoted side at home. So I feel like this is the perfect start. And when you look at the fixtures, we're only playing one top 5 side in our open 11 Premier League games. So I feel like it is a very, very important time for Thomas Frank to get off to the perfect start in the Premier League. Of course, he's got his first competitive game as the new Spurs boss against PSG in the Super Cup, which is going to be very, very tough. But, you know, starting the Premier League campaign, Burnley at home, I think that's a really good start for us. Manchester City, the Etihad, is a stadium that we have done extremely well at, even though, Manchester City have been champions, not last season, obviously, but before. We will always go to that stadium and perform really well. But overall, I think this is a really good fixture list for Spurs in the opening couple of months. But there are also some very, very difficult and tough Champions League games there as well. So the transfer window is going to be really, really important for us.
And possibly a quick start as well. Ange got off to a famously very quick start, didn't he? And there are still fans there who wanted Ange to stay on. So how vital is it for Thomas Frank to get off to a good start, win the fans over early?
Yeah, absolutely. When Ange Postecoglou came in, he won his first 8 out of the first 10 games, sitting top of the Premier League. Everyone was extremely happy. It's been an up and down last couple of years. Of course, we won the Europa League. We finished 17th in the Premier League last season, 22 defeats. So, we definitely need to improve on the league position. Daniel Levy and Vinay Venkatesham have come out and said that, we want to be fighting on all fronts. Daniel Levy last night said that, one day we want to be winning the Premier League and we want to be winning the Champions League. And the club want to be fighting on all fronts. So it's very important for the football club to build a squad, build what, that we, just won the Europa League. So it's really important to build on that. Hopefully, Thomas Frank coming in will be a minor reset rather than a major reset. But that ambition needs to be, proved on the pitch. There's no point just saying we want to win something. It's about how we go about doing it, because Thomas Frank now is the 18th manager in 24 years. Some would say that we have gone round in circles a lot of the time, but this is a really important time for the club to bring in experienced players, go all out, go and get those experienced players that we desperately need, because in previous transfer windows, we've signed young players, players for the future. But I feel like this window for Thomas Frank, for the football club, is really, really important to go out there with real intention to go and win another trophy, because us fans haven't tasted that success for such a long time, 17 long years, 41 years without a European trophy. And now we tasted it. And that parade was just simply incredible. And we want to feel like that all the time. Me as a Spurs fan, I want to feel like that every year of seeing my club and my captain, go down that high road lifting trophies. So the transfer window is very, very important for the football club this summer.
And Daniel Levy mentioned that, didn't he? We just heard from him. We don't hear from Daniel Levy that often, but it was very interesting what he said in terms of we want to be winning Premier Leagues and Champions League. It's not just enough to win the Europa League. So do you think those comments have put Thomas Frank under a bit of early pressure before he starts the job? And what exactly is the remit? What's the minimum requirement, you think, for Frank?
I think the minimum requirement, the football club, is very important for them, league position. As we've seen, we finished 17th and won a European trophy, and the manager was still sacked. We've seen the likes of Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte come in and weren't successful in terms of trophies at the football club. But in terms of pressure, I feel like the club themselves, the board themselves, have put them under a lot of pressure by saying that we want to be fighting on all fronts. You need to be giving the tools to the manager to do that. Of course, Thomas Frank gets the best out of players. He identifies a number of great players and turns them into unsung heroes. We've seen that at Brentford for the last 4 years in the Premier League. He's a great manager in that respect. But this is going to be a very, very different job to the Brentford one for Thomas Frank. He's going to come under a lot more pressure. He's going to be questioned a lot more in those press conferences by the journalists, etc. But the football club ultimately do need to give the manager the tools to drive us forward, because we were playing the Europa League last season. No disrespect to the Europa League, but it's going to be a very, very different ball game in the Champions League. We're coming up against, top sides in European competition. So we need to go all out in the transfer window, as I've said. We need depth in all areas. We had so many injuries last season. We cannot afford to have that level of injuries again. And we need to progress in that league table. Finishing 17th is simply not good enough. 22 league defeats. So hopefully Thomas Frank will bring that calmness to Spurs. And hopefully he will, get Tottenham climbing up that Premier League table. And as a fan, I want to hear the club saying that we want to be fighting on all fronts. We want to hear that. But, of course, we want that proved as well. So it's all well and good saying it. We need to see the great players coming in, the very experienced players coming in to help Thomas Frank try to achieve that at the football club.
Chris, exciting season ahead for you guys, and really appreciate that instant reaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
OK, let's get back to the fixtures then. How about Manchester United? It's a first full season.